Welcome to the Ghost Show online, my fiends, booze, and ghouls. Your hosts, Seika Groves, Rachel Benter, and Ian Russell will discuss all things paranormal. Prepare to be afraid.
What might be the first piece of equipment that you would recommend for them? So let's just touch on that first, because I'm sure there's a lot of people want to know.
Yeah, well, I have been asked that very same question many times. That people have contacted me. They're just getting into the paranormal. They've never done an investigation yet. And exactly what you just asked is, you know, what equipment should I be using? What's the best to use? And I have said this many times, that you don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on all this equipment. As you and Rachel have said, that your own bodies are your paranormal tools. And that is actually one of the best paranormal tools you can use, is your own body.
Right.
You're going to go into a location, and if you're at all sensitive, you're going to pick up temperature drops. You're going to pick up electrical static charges. You're going to get goosebumps on your arms. The hair on your arm will stand up. And let's say I'm not the least bit sensitive in that regards, like you two are, but I've had that happen to me. That I've had an energy move right through me, and I have never felt anything like that ever before. And so, yeah, so that's what I've always said is, you don't need to go out and spend all this money on the equipment.
Right.
Yeah,
However,
that's
it's
what
fun.
we see in the paranormal TV shows, isn't it? All these investigators out there on the TV shows with all this equipment, you know, using it as if it's gospel, you know, as if it can be relied upon, you know.
Well, I don't put a lot of faith in those TV shows.
No.
A lot of those are it's television entertainment.
Oh yeah,
And
it is. Yeah.
Real,
But I think
true
people watch
paranormal
them.
investigation is nothing like those TV shows. I'm not going to mention any specific ones at this time, but you know, they go into a location and the cameras start running, and all this amazing evidence suddenly happens. The ghosts come flying out of the walls, and you know, and the investigators are screaming and running away. Yeah. And it's like, oh, come on, really? It's one. If you're a true like paranormal investigator, you are not going to run from a situation, because if this is what your calling really is, you're not going to run from it, because this is exactly what you are looking for. So why would you run? Yeah. And and anybody who's done paranormal investigation knows that the frequency of those phenomenon happening are few and far between. If you get a really good piece of evidence, you're lucky. Yes. You know, it's nothing like it is on the television programs.
No, for the most part, I have to agree with that too. I mean, I've done enough of this, and I've been on enough of the TV shows to know. That being said, though, Ian, let's talk about people who aren't sensitive. Like you said, you're not sensitive, right? So how can a piece of equipment help them, and what would be that piece of equipment? So if they're not sensitive at all, what would you recommend that they go out and they get for their first piece of equipment to try?
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. And I have to say that there is no one piece of equipment that is sort of really utilizable for every location, because every single location is different. If you are in the basement of an old, dark, abandoned factory, you're going to need equipment that has night vision capability, infrared capability, things that will light up in the dark. If you are out on a beautiful day like today at, say, a cemetery, because you can't go at any other time, that equipment that you would be using in the basement of the factory is going to be useless to you on a bright sunny day, because you are not going to be able to see the lights illuminate. Infrared during the daytime is useless. So it really is dependent on the individual location. But having said that, okay, the very first piece of equipment you should go and get, regardless of whether you're a tech head like myself or whether you're sensitive like the two of you, this piece of equipment, I imagine, is probably commonly overlooked by the individuals who are going out for the very first time. A flashlight. A plain old simple flashlight. And I know this answer probably sounds disappointing, but when you're stumbling around in the dark of that old abandoned basement in the factory, you're going to want this to see where you're going to prevent injury. You can't go digging around in your equipment bag for equipment if you can't see what you're doing. So get some kind of a flashlight. That's number one.
You're ready to go and do some investigating.
That's why having the torch on your phone is also an excellent tool. I have probably used that more than anything else ever, is that light on my phone for those very reasons, right? And again, you know, I consider that just a common sense piece of equipment so that I'm not falling down in the dark, right? If I'm like, these are reading glasses, but I don't have great night vision anymore, so for me, that's definitely a great tool to start with, is a flashlight. And again, flashlights have other purposes. For me, what I've noticed about a flashlight is that you can use it to illuminate things that you believe you're seeing. So in the case of something like pareidolia, right, where we believe we could be looking at a wall or a doorway or even into the trees, and we might think that we see a figure there or a face or something. But if you shine that flashlight on, it really does help you discover that it is just your eyes playing tricks with the light and shadow. Because if something is there, that flashlight doesn't cause it to disappear, right? Regardless of what it is. Because I know that I've used my phone a couple of times in situations where we've been in a dark building and there is something there, and if I shine my phone in the direction that whatever it may be doesn't go away, it's still there, right? So whether it is a shadow, spirit, a orb, anything like that, right? I find that flashlights and cell phone lights and things like that
torches can be a bit deceiving, like you said. Like, you know, people think they see movement on a wall because they're shining their torch in that direction.
That too, right? I mean, there's a number of things that, of course, could be, but that's a really good a good piece of common sense equipment. I would agree with.
Absolutely.
I have used.
Just to add to that, bring extra batteries for your torch, because more than once.
Yes.
My batteries have drained during an investigation,
right.
and also make sure your batteries are fully charged, because when you go out, I've done investigations where I was communicating, and the torches would flash. That sort of thing, and it would drain a lot of energy, you know. And we would say, you know, flash twice for yes, and once for no. But you got to make sure that that there's enough energy for that to be done.
I mean, the beauty nowadays too is like you can buy those little pocket flashlights at the dollar store, right? So you can have 8 or 9 of them, on standby.
They do run out. The batteries run out.
Flashlight, number one for you, Ian, is a good piece of equipment. So now let's talk about actual ghost hunting gadgets in terms of what was the very first piece of equipment you purchased outside of a flashlight?
First piece of equipment, okay. I see we're sort of going through a process here.
Yeah, why not? It helps people, right? I think it helps people.
Yeah, so you mentioned cell phones. You just held up your phone with your little flashlight on it. Let's talk about cameras. And that was actually the first piece of equipment I took to an investigation, is because everybody owns a camera. Whether it's a cell phone or whether you have an actual camera. Now, I've mentioned before, what my opinion about cell phone cameras is.
Yeah, well, mine
too. In terms of paranormal investigation, cell phone cameras are great.
They're not reliable, though.
If you are on vacation in Florida and you want to take some family photographs, as a paranormal investigation tool, I can't stand the cell phone cameras. Because, as you say, they are unreliable.
Yes.
So if you want to go on an investigation and you want to take photographs, hoping that you're going to get orbs, and that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, we've done shows on that.
But in my opinion, is drop the cell phone and go and get a proper camera. Now, again, depending on your budget and how much means you have, you can go and you can get the nice fancy expensive camera, or you can just get the little camera that just fits in your hand. And that has like one button on it. And
so, Ian, have you ever used a thermal camera? Because I worked with a team that bought one.
We have. My husband has one, and it works great.
Not in the thermal aspect. I haven't. No.
Infrared.
But I'll tell you this. This
little cameras are really useful.
This simple little camera. This takes the best pictures.
Yeah. It
really does. I'm surprised, considering it's just a very inexpensive camera compared to some. So if still photography is your thing that you want to explore in the paranormal, go for it. But again, it opens up a whole can of worms that you've got to understand the principles behind photography, that when you look at these pictures and you see orbs, chances are it's not paranormal whatsoever.
Right, yes.
Because of bugs and dust and hair in front of the lens.
And insects. And there's
it's a whole can of worms. Yeah.
Definitely. So, Ian, that's a great thing. So let's just say that, because I do believe a lot of people may have like a little pocket, what we call a pocket Instamatic camera. These days, they have really great abilities for being compact. The size of the photograph, the megabytes or the megapixels in the photograph have greatly improved over the years. No, I don't even think you can find a camera even on a phone anymore that is like a 2 megapixel camera. They're mostly like 16, 18, 25, like they just go up and up. So you're going to get a good or a decent quality photograph. Now, let's kind of let Ian run wild here. Because I know a lot of people do have questions, right? But I really want to hear from you what what you like to use and what are your favorite pieces, because I do think your experience can help people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since we touched on the photography end of things, as I say, I'm not a huge fan of the still photography within paranormal investigation. I like using video. Right. And maybe this comes down to my background in film and video and television that I did for years. So I'm kind of biased towards the video aspect of documenting everything.
Right.
And again, you can get some great little video cameras. This one is just a standard video camera. Again, you want to go to Florida for vacation, works great. But this one, all I do, I push a button and it switches over to infrared
Oh, wow.
spectrum filming night vision.
Okay.
And it does not have a light source built into it like the other one. So what you have to do is get an external light source, and you mount the camera, the light source on this this little handheld bar here, and off you go. It also works great, but it's strictly night vision.
Right. And LED now is so great for the lights, right? Because it makes everything compact and lightweight, and you get a really good amount of time out of an LED, like when you charge that light. And again, as we said, in all situations, things can definitely run down, quickly. The energy can be zapped right out of things. But I do like those LED. My husband uses those as well. He's got LED ring lights and all kinds of different things. And he shoots professionally as a photographer, but he also does, uses it for paranormal as well. So great thought processes there. Now, what about the fun stuff? The beeping, light up, the stuff that we see on TV.
We're close to that. But as I say, okay, so some of my favorite stuff are the video cameras. I love documenting everything on an investigation, even if nothing happens.
Right.
I just love to document the whole experience, and video is awesome. Okay, so next we have our digital audio recorders.
Okay.
We're recording EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, which are spirit voices speaking that are captured. And as you can see, they come in various shapes and sizes. And
I had an interesting experience with one of those on a paranormal investigation where I was, I guess I was in the attic, and I was sort of speaking with the spirit, and I said, oh, that's your chair, is what I heard something say. That's my chair. And I said, oh, that's your chair, and sort of said that back. But nobody else could hear anything. Everyone's like, no one's, what are you on about? But when they played it back on the EVP, they could hear something say, that's my chair. And me responding on the EVP, oh, that's your chair. Okay. and they're like, wow, that's wild, because everybody who was there didn't hear that. They didn't hear that voice. Yeah.
It is amazing how that's picked up, because I've had a few experiences myself where we did a seance at an old school. And at the time, we were asking questions of a spirit that we believed were there. And there was some other ladies with us, and they were all giggling and sort of, and it sounds like it's unprofessional, but we were trying to be very casual and, sort of conversive, as opposed to, being very rigid.
Serious.
And that. So we were sitting around a table talking about the person whose spirit we believed was there. And the one woman had gone to the school along with another man who was present, and she was laughing because she kept getting touched on the back of her head. Somebody was like touching her hair, like stroking her hair, and she was giggling and she was saying, "Is that you, Paul? Is that you? Are you touching my hair?" And we didn't hear anything, but when we played the EVP back, he said, "Paul."
So yeah.
Alrighty,
okay,
what else you got?
Now we come to excuse me. Now we come to the meat and potatoes of the paranormal equipment that everybody is familiar with from the TV shows, and that is the EMF detector. Oh,
yes, the EMF.
Electromagnetic
It's famous
field.
now.
Yep. And there are a million different kinds out there, and I have a few that I want to go over here. First is one of the most common, very inexpensive, and that is the K2 meter.
Yes, the K2. Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, it's very simple, just has a bank of lights on the top that runs from green to red. And depending on the strength of the magnetic field that you pick up, the appropriate light will illuminate. Now, this, as I say, this is a very popular one in paranormal circles. Although I'm not a huge fan of it. To me, it's a very cheap detector. If my neighbor, across the backyard turns on his microwave to heat up a sandwich at lunchtime, this would probably pick it up.
Those things will just go completely to the red when I walk in a room.
And we had they had EMF readers. They weren't aware that there was alarm clocks in the room, and they didn't look properly. And of course, they went off like crazy. And there they were. Sure enough, the alarm clock was giving off.
Oh, the electrical, the electrical
field, magnetic field. Yeah, that was the problem there. Must have been giving her quite the headaches too. Like she was saying, I have headaches. It's like you have all these alarm clocks with these, electric magnetic fields.
Well, despite what my personal opinion about this is a very popular device.
It looks good on television.
Thanks, yes, exactly.
Yes.
Thanks to the TV show Ghost Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They utilized this device all the time, and it's become very popular because of them.
It's easily recognizable now for people, right? And when they see it, they kind of relate immediately to its purpose.
Yes.
So, yes. So I know there's other ones like that. Do you have have better ones?
Okay, yes. One of my absolute favorites is it's a very simple device.
Multimeter.
It's old school, and this is called a tri-field meter.
Oh, a tri-field meter.
And you can see it's not digital.
How cool is that?
It just has a dial and a needle. Well, it just detects you on the dial. You turn the dial to whatever setting that you want to try to capture, whether it's electrical, magnetic.
Oh, okay.
You just turn the dial.
That.
Yeah.
And it turns on, and if something happens, the needle will spike. Mm-hmm. And this is actually, considering its simplicity of just a needle and a dial, this is a very, very good detector. It's very well sought after.
And so can you tell us again, what is that one called?
It's called a tri-field meter.
A tri-field meter, okay.
I'll write that down.
Yeah, and, I'm writing it down right now.
It's just a very, I understand it's very sought after. I don't know how widely available these are, but it's considered to be a very, very good detector.
I'm just going to keep my eyes open next time I go to like an electronics, like Jumble or, like a charity shop or a antique market that sells old electronics.
Yeah.
But the only drawback is that, as I say, it's old school because it isn't digital. It doesn't light up. So if you're using this in the dark basement of the abandoned factory,
you can't see it.
The only way you're going to see it is if you're looking through your camera, your infrared video camera,
right.
Or if you've got your trusty flashlight
right.
to illuminate the screen.
Now, can I ask what operates that? How does it work? Like, does it need its own battery, or is it?
It takes a 9-volt battery.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep. Just a plain old common 9-volt battery. Yep.
Okay. Great.
Okay, so now that brings us to the next generation of EMF detectors, and this is called a Mel meter.
Ah, yes, I have heard of those.
Which is very popular.
I actually think we have one. I think my husband has one.
You don't know if you have one or not.
I don't use it, but I think we have one.
I don't.
My husband's used
I don't have one.
Okay, so anyways, as I say, this is sort of the next generation of EMF. It's entirely digital. This little LCD screen lights up, which is great for when you're working in the dark. And this unit is actually the very first EMF detector to be built specifically for paranormal work.
Oh, okay.
The tri-field, they're used by electricians, by plumbers for detecting the electrical within your house when they come in to do repairs that you need.
Right.
This one is the very first purpose-built unit for the paranormal. And there's a very sad story behind this. It's called the Mel meter because the gentleman who invented it, his daughter was named Melissa.
Oh.
And she was killed in a very tragic car crash. And the official model of this is called the Mel 8704. And 87 is the year she was born. 04 was the year that she passed away in the car accident. And so the gentleman who designed this, he built this, I guess, originally for himself to try to communicate with his daughter.
Wow.
But it has become a very popular unit. Again, it's a very good unit.
Thank you for watching The Ghost Show Online. Join your hosts again next week as they discuss more tales of the supernatural, the paranormal, and all things spectacular. See you soon.